This is a crosshair video like no other. We're actually breaking down the hidden factors that prevent you from finding your perfect crosshair. We're not just showing you popular crosshairs. Don't worry, we do have popular pro crosshairs in this video for you to try out, but we're actually doing so much more than just showing you crosshairs to try. We're going to show you how to find and create the perfect crosshair for your aiming style and play style. Do you ever find yourself switching between crosshairs because it feels off? Do you sometimes lose track of your crosshair mid-fight? Do you feel like your crosshair gets in the way of your actual target? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you need to watch this video, because by the end of it, you will have all of the knowledge required to create and fine-tune the perfect crosshair for you, so you'll never have those problems ever again. This is a no-nonsense guide to everything you need to know about crosshairs. We're going to talk you through all the different types of crosshairs, how you can customize them, and find your perfect crosshair so you'll never have to change it again. Your crosshair settings are probably the most important settings in Valorant, and Valorant's default crosshair is abysmal. It has literally only one upside, which is during the tutorial, it gives new players visual feedback about firing inaccuracy, which teaches you that moving and shooting at the same time is bad. As soon as you understand that conceptually, you no longer need the training wheels, and it's time to upgrade to a big kid's crosshair. All professional players use static crosshairs, and there's good reason for it. There's enough going on when you're trying to aim in Valorant, so you want your crosshair to be static, unmoving, and reliable. And a dynamic crosshair with firing error on doesn't even accurately portray the bullet range when spraying due to how recoil works in Valorant. So let's get into what your crosshair should actually look like. Now, you might have seen dozens of different crosshairs in game, but there's actually only 4 types of crosshairs. And each of the 4 crosshair categories is simply a combination of 2 elements: shape, cross versus dot, and style, solid versus hollow. Where most players get lost and end up bouncing around on different crosshairs is because they're just picking a crosshair at random in a vacuum like it's its own thing, rather than discovering what category of crosshair suits them best. This will make finding your perfect crosshair 10 times easier because you can fine-tune any of these 4 categories in multiple ways. You might like the idea of one type of crosshair but find it awkward to actually use, but fear not, it might actually be the best category for you. You just need to fine-tune some of the settings so it complements the strengths and weaknesses of your aiming style and play style. For example, if you're trying to keep track of your crosshair mid-fight, you might not need to completely change to a different crosshair, you just need to know the right settings and numbers to tweak your current crosshair in the right way to make it suit you better. And each category has its own design principles that make them work best, so it's important to know what to adjust and why you're adjusting it. So how do you find what is right for you? Well, it begins with asking yourself these 3 questions, and the answers will lead you to the correct crosshair category for you. The first is, what do you value more, or what do you need more support for in regards to precision or accuracy? If you take this idea of precision versus accuracy and translate it to be applicable to Valorant, accuracy refers to the success of your larger initial movements of your crosshair to your target, and precision refers to the success of your smaller corrective movements, aka micro adjustments. Crosses tend to slightly favor accuracy, while dots tend to slightly favor precision. We'll explain that further when we go into more details about the benefits of each crosshair type. The second question you need to ask is about how your brain actually processes the information in game. I know that sounds like a lot, but I promise you it's not. It's actually a very simple question. So when aiming, how do you naturally prefer to confirm your shots are aimed at your target? Do you like to be able to see your target inside of your crosshair? So when you see their dumb little face in the middle of it, it's confirmation that you're on target? Or do you want your crosshair to cover your target like an eclipse? So when your crosshair overlaps your target and you can no longer see their dumb little face, you have confirmation you're on target. Depending on how your brain works will lead you towards solid or hollow. And the third question is, what kind of playstyle do you have, as that will influence what type of fight you take. If you hold a lot of angles and like taking long range duels, then you're likely to get better results from a smaller crosshair, as it will favor precision. Whereas if you're moving around a lot, taking a lot of close range fights and flicking to a lot of your targets, then you're more likely to find success with a slightly larger crosshair, as it'll be more skewed towards accuracy, which is more important than precision in those fights. No matter what your playstyle is, how your brain computes targets, or what your aim style is, your crosshair is just one part of the most important combination in Valorant. The other part is actually mastering your aim. They go hand in hand. You can't have perfect aim if you're distracted by your crosshair, but your perfect crosshair is wasted if your aim is distractingly bad. It's not until you get both locked in that you can start hitting insane clips like these. And we've got the best way to level up your aim with our world-class aim courses like this one, which steps you through every possible thing that could be detrimental to your aim, much like how a bad crosshair can be. Sometimes you get so locked in on training and aim routines that you forget that something like posture can be the thing that's holding you back. And this course is designed to help you find out the exact thing that could be holding you back from mastering your aim. Look, improving your aim is the easiest way to start ranking up, and we're so confident that we can help you improve your aim that if you don't rank up in at least 5 divisions while actively using our service, we'll give you your money back, no questions asked. So if you're sick of being stuck in elo hell or want to avoid it altogether, sign up today with the link in the description. Now let's actually step through the 4 categories of crosshairs. And let's start by talking about both categories of crosshairs. Crosses have a few distinct advantages over dots. One is that they are bigger in total volume and are a distinct shape which helps them stand out on your screen. This means, in general, crosses help you with being more accurate in the sense of accuracy that we explained just before, because in general, they help you to move quicker onto your target. The 4 arms of the cross can all work in tandem to zero in on your target, but have other advantages that are beneficial too. One example is being able to use the horizontal lines to confirm your crosshair placement is head level. In case you didn't know, Valorant maps are built in units. Whenever you see a wooden crate or a stack of bricks, those are 1 unit blocks, and they are exactly the same height as a Valorant agent, who all have the same hitbox, by the way, even if their hair suggests otherwise. So you can use these objects and other various markers around the maps to extend that head level line, which is very easy to do with a cross as your crosshair, which makes it really easy to quickly correct whenever you're slightly off. Having a cross also means whenever you're trying to zero in on a target, you will have frames of reference on each axis to influence your micro adjustments. This is only a split-second semi-subconscious thing, but your brain is definitely able to process that information. And on another small note, if you're a lineup Larry, crosses are generally better than dots because you're not limited to just using the center of your crosshair for creating precise lineups. You can also use the end of each individual arm of your cross to line up as well. One of the potential downsides of using a cross, however, is that it can lead your aim astray a little bit, aka be a little less precise. Because there's just more of your crosshair on the screen, in messy fights it can actually confuse your brain, and sometimes you might mistakenly fire when the end of your cross's arm is on your target instead of tracking all the way to the center. I'm not saying this will happen all the time or for everyone, but if you can relate to that, it potentially means that a cross isn't the right choice for you. With all that said, let's show you how to actually build the perfect cross for you, whether it's going to be solid or hollow. You'll often hear players describe their crosshair as a string of 4 numbers, like 3, 1, 2, 1. What they're referring to are these 4 settings: inner line opacity, which is practically always 1, inner line length, inner line thickness, and inner line offset. These 4 settings are the foundation for customizing your crosshair to your liking. Some players might spend a good amount of time crafting up crosshairs using additional settings, including creative novelty ones, but to keep it simple, these are the only 4 settings you need to worry about for a standard crosshair. And for now, you can turn everything else off, including the whole outer lines section. And then you can start by setting your opacity to 1. For inner line length, we recommend a range between 2 and 5, depending on your preference, but most commonly you'll see either 3 or 4. Some players like having it as high as 7 or 8. The higher your number, the more you're favoring accuracy over precision. For inner line thickness, pretty much you'll exclusively be setting this to 1, 2, or 3. And the biggest thing this affects is how easy it is for you to keep track of your crosshair. Thicker crosshairs are harder to lose sight of in the chaos of a fight, but by their nature, take up more real estate on your screen. Real estate that you could be using to spot your targets, which naturally leads you to less precision and more accuracy. In a perfect world, you wouldn't need to balance your crosshair's visibility with its accuracy. You could have a razor-thin single pixel crosshair and never lose track of it. Some pro players are practically able to achieve this, but it's not realistic for everyone. So if you're trying to achieve good visibility with a thicker setting of 2 or 3 and it feels too thick, but setting it to 1 feels way too hard to see, then try turning outlines on to add a black border around your crosshair. This is a great way to add visibility to your crosshair without adding volume because it adds contrast. So once you've set your length and your thickness and whether or not you have outlines on, you finally come to the most important decision so far: offset. This is where what we mentioned at the beginning of the video about how you like to confirm your targets matters. And while this setting is technically a scale like the other settings, you're actually functionally choosing between off or on, and if on, how much. If you came to the conclusion that you like covering your targets like an eclipse to confirm kills, set this to 0, which effectively means off. This will mean you have no offset and your crosshair lines will be connected from end to end, giving you a solid cross. Now, unfortunately, if you liked having outlines on, you will have to live with outlines inside the middle of your crosshair because Riot doesn't have the technology to make them go away. So most solid crosshairs that you'll see will have outlines off for a cleaner look. The other thing you might notice is if you have set your thickness to an odd number, you will notice a very tiny dot in the middle of your crosshair. To fix this, head up to your dot settings and turn it on and set the thickness of your dot to match the inner line thickness. And voila, it's completely solid all the way through. And if you need some more inspiration, here's some pro solid crosshairs that you might like to try and adjust to your liking. We have the links in the description. Just keep in mind, resolution matters. These numbers are based on what the vast majority of the player base plays on, 1920 by 1080. But if you're on a different res, these crosshairs will look slightly different. For example, if you're playing on 2560 by 1440, all of these crosshairs will appear smaller on your screen, so you'll need to use larger numbers. Now, if you prefer a hollow cross, 4 arms with a gap in the middle, like what you'll find as the standard default crosshair in a lot of FPS games, including Valorant, if you were to turn off the distracting dynamic movement from the error multipliers, that is, and it's a great choice and the most common because it gives a good balance of accuracy and precision. Being a cross shape, it's naturally easier to track through faster flicks, but doesn't compromise as much on precision by having a hollow center, which allows you to zero in on your target once you flick to them. This is the type of crosshair you want if you want to see the target you're aiming at, but still have the extra guidelines for a frame of reference. By setting your offset to a smaller number, it'll help with that precision, but if you really don't care about precision at all, then you can go for a high offset for full accuracy. And here are some pro examples of hollow crosshairs that you might like to try and adjust to your liking. If a cross never felt quite right to you and you feel like all the extra lines are distracting or just get in the way and you want pure precision, pure performance, then maybe the dot crosshair is what you've been looking for. Some of the very best aimers in the world swear by the dot, like Aspas and Zekken. There is a caveat to the dot. In general, it feels like it has a higher skill floor than the cross, but also a higher skill ceiling. And this is due to it generally allowing for higher precision at the cost of working harder for accuracy. Less reference points and a smaller total volume makes it harder in theory to achieve the same level of accuracy. But these two things aren't absolute. One could argue that there's infinitely scaling value in being infinitely precise. But for accuracy, once you hit a certain threshold, there's definitely a fall off. So therefore, sacrificing a little bit of accuracy in the hunt for more precision is absolutely a trade-off you might want to take. Having a simple dot means less clutter on your screen. It allows you to see more, practically see everything, and makes it much easier to micro-adjust because you have nothing else blocking your vision. But that comes at the cost of being harder to keep track of it if things get chaotic. Now, if you're playing lots of Valorant, you'll probably get used to it quite quickly, and with good pre-aimed crosshair placement, you can counteract it as well. However, one issue with the dot crosshair that does turn some players away is not being able to get the perfect size. If you want something incredibly small, you can't get a perfect circle, you have to use a square dot. Now, you can get a circle with adding some additional size, but that may be unwanted. Having a slightly larger dot can mean adding in some nice pseudo rounding, but can also mean at long range your dot is too large for your target and can cost you precision, which is why you wanted the dot in the first place. So if you feel like the dot is the right crosshair for you, we recommend starting as small as possible, which may seem counterintuitive because it's the highest skill floor option, but we've got good reason for it. It's simply the optimal choice if you can keep track of it mid-fight with no problems. If you're finding it difficult, then you can simply increase to a larger dot and test that and repeat until you strike the right balance of size and precision for you. Not all dots are created equal though. So here's 3 pro solid dot crosshairs in 3 different sizes that you can try out, and the codes are of course in the description. Now, if the idea of a dot is appealing to you, but you don't like the idea of not being able to see your target inside of your crosshair, then don't worry, there is one last option for you. And that's the hollow dot or box crosshair. Building this is a little trickier than you might think, because if you just turn your dot opacity down, then you're left with only black outlines. And if you want some brighter colors, like most players do for good contrast, you need to get a little bit creative. So start by turning your outlines off, then head down to your inner line settings and put your offset at 2. Then this is where it gets weird. To make a cross, you would typically have a higher length setting and a lower thickness setting, but to create a box, you need to invert them. So turn your length down to 2 and turn your thickness up to 6, which makes the crosshair arms on the left and right stand vertically and the ones on the top and bottom lay horizontally. And now you can see you've created a nice little box, and you can play around with making it a different size to suit you. All you have to do is simply follow the inverted number principle and you can make your box of any size you want. For example, 1241 will give you quite a small ring-like shape. This type of crosshair is definitely the least common of the 4 categories, but don't let that deter you from trying it out. Its lack of popularity isn't a bad sign about the crosshair. It's just that it's harder to build and most players just copy other crosshairs they've seen. So many players might not have even seen a crosshair like this before. So of course it's going to be less common, but that doesn't mean it's any worse than any of the other crosshairs we've shown. Now of course there's plenty of novelty crosshairs too. We've included 3 of our favorites below, like the Nurge glasses, the penguin face, and the pretty flower. These aren't competitively viable, but if you're ever in need of a conversation starter in your casual games, these can be a bit of fun. And one final bonus tip, pick a crosshair color that's on the opposite side of the color wheel from whatever you've set your enemy highlight color to. It's going to mean maximum contrast and less losing your crosshair mid-fight. If you have red enemy highlights, then cyan is the highest contrast. If you have purple enemies, green is the highest contrast. And if you have yellow, you need to set a custom blue, which is 4 zeros double F, and that will be your highest contrast. Some players will also change their crosshair color dependent on the map. For example, if you're using Scion on Pearl, which has a very blue color scape, then it can be a little bit harder to lose, so you might want to switch it to yellow or green for that map. If that works for you, go for it. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. And that is our complete in-depth look at how to figure out which crosshair is best for you. We hope you found this guide helpful. If you did, please check and make sure you're subscribed. It really helps out the channel a lot. And remember, you can sign up to our website today risk-free with our money-back guarantee and escape elo hell by taking your aim to the next level. The link is in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.